Hi guys, this is Hirosaki. This story is all about what if Naruto was part of the Avengers. Naruto left the elemental nations and wound up in a world where flying metal man, magic, and gods exist. Before we start, kindly like and subscribe to this channel, and look over the description box for the author of this amazing storyline. Welcome aboard. Chapter 50, Rescue. Malibu, Los Angeles. February 13, 2009, 15:30 local. How are they? Pepper anxiously asked as soon as Naruto walked down the staircase. She had been trying to distract herself by playing with Morgan while Happy ran some errands for her. Last time I checked, sleeping. Naruto answered as he flopped down the sofa. Morgan was too focused on playing with her blocks to rush towards Naruto, as she usually did. Frank took the first watch, followed by Inson and finally Tony. They'll move at first light. He elaborated. Aren't you supposed to watch over them or something? Pepper continued with her questioning. There are no terrorists in a 100 kilometers radius of their position. Naruto replied with a shrug. Living ones anyway. He muttered darkly, but Pepper heard it all the same. His statement caused a chill to run down her spine. Why are we letting you play with Morgan alone again? Pepper asked half sarcastically. Because I'm awesome. Naruto answered seriously. By the way, I ran an idea by Tony a few hours ago. Thought I should ask you about it too since it's about Morgan. Pepper immediately went alert, hearing Naruto's statement. Morgan is their number one priority, and anything that concerns Morgan requires her full attention. What did you ask him? Pepper asked Naruto a little warily. A bodyguard job for Morgan. Naruto replied quickly, but he continued when he saw Pepper's perplexed look. Morgan is entering her formative years. You can't expect her to live alone without any contact with other kids. That's why I'm going to be her bodyguard when you low-key announce her and send her to playdates. He had been thinking about it for quite some time. Even though Morgan has a loving family, she will have a hard time developing her social skills without interacting with other kids. Pepper thought about Naruto's offer. Indeed, Morgan is growing up quickly. Having her interact with other kids would only help in her development. The one thing holding both Tony and her back is the level of shitstorm that would come for them. Being the richest man on the planet has its perks. Prestige and comfort are just a few of them. But everything has a drawback. Ever since he was a kid, Tony has been targeted by kidnapping, assassination, sabotage, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Going public with Morgan would shift all the attempts from Tony to their baby girl, and they don't want to rob her of a somewhat normal childhood. Naruto's offer could be the solution to the whole thing though. Pepper had never seen Naruto in action, only snippets from stories and the results, but all of the signs pointed towards one undeniable fact. Naruto is a weird guy. From what Pepper surmised, Naruto is a fighting powerhouse that could take out a whole platoon of Navy SEALs, armed or unarmed. He can get in and out of anywhere with that teleportation ability of his that he used with Tony and the others. Not to mention his bottomless pocket trick. Naruto also has connections with an unknown spy agency as evident by his super spy girlfriend. The few downsides about Naruto is his sudden bouts of violence and unpredictability. This should cause most parents to pull their kids away from an unstable individual, but this might be precisely what they need. A superhuman that could protect their baby. What did Tony say? Pepper asked, wanting to make sure that they are both on the same side. He asked me if I'm a merc, which is partially true, but I didn't receive a solid answer. Naruto replied with a shrug. You two should probably talk it over when Tony arrives. He finished. Just in time too, since Jarvis decided to butt in after Naruto's statement. There's an Agent Phil Coulson at the front gate, Ms. Potts. He would like to talk to you about Mr. Stark. Should I let him in? Jarvis asked. Pepper and Naruto immediately perked up after hearing Jarvis's announcement. Pepper was anxious because of the not-so-straightforward kidnapping situation, and Naruto was beating himself up for forgetting Phil's mission. Naruto stood up and hoisted Morgan into his arms, who started squealing happily because she finally noticed Naruto's presence. He quickly picked up Morgan's toys and personal effects and stored them away. "I'll play with Morgan in her room while you deal with the spook," Naruto told Pepper while picking up Morgan's shoe. "And a word of advice, follow your gut about the Coulson guy," he said mysteriously before walking away. Pepper was left to ponder about Naruto's statement, but she still needed to deal with something more pressing at the moment. "Jarvis, let Agent Coulson in," Pepper ordered while cleaning up everything she could find that might point to Morgan. That's when she remembered one of Naruto's tactics and followed his direction. "And find everything you can about this Phil Coulson, and send it to my phone." "Of course, Miss Potts." "Agent Coulson is just pulling into the driveway," Jarvis informed Pepper. "Thank you, Jarvis," Pepper replied while fixing up her clothes. A few moments later, she heard a knock on the door. It looks like Jarvis decided to let Agent Coulson experience a more human interaction than an AI butler. Pepper walked towards the door and opened it, revealing an average-looking man in a suit. "Virginia Potts?" Phil asked to make sure, to which Pepper nodded. He then pulled out his badge and ID, showing it to her. She noticed that the badge was one that she had never seen before. "I'm Agent Phil Coulson of Strategic Homeland Intervention, Enforcement and Logistics Division, or SHIELD." "Never heard of it before," Pepper replied with genuine befuddlement. As the personal assistant of Tony Stark, she has heard of almost every alphabet agency out there, and SHIELD was definitely not a part of them. "That's the way we like it," Phil replied with his trademark smile. "May I come in?" he asked politely. "Sure. We can talk in the living room. Just turn left," Pepper answered while stepping aside, making sure to always keep the agent in her sight. Phil walked straight towards the living room with confidence. He only sat down on the couch after Pepper gestured for him to do so. She, on the other hand, sat at the opposite end of the sofa. "So, what does an unknown organization want with me, or, more importantly, my boss?" Pepper inquired straightforwardly. Phil had to chuckle at Pepper's manner of questioning. She wasn't afraid to speak her mind and was confident enough to take control of the conversation away from him. It must be true that redheads have fiery personalities, just basing it on his interactions with Natasha and Pepper. SHIELD has a particular interest in Mr. Stark. I can't get into why, because it's all top secret, but our organization has his safety and well-being as one of our top priorities," Phil explained. "Although we still need to protect the country's national security," he continued after adopting a serious expression. "We need to know if there's any chance that Mr. Stark might sell out the country for his safety," he ended while giving Pepper a hard stare. Pepper laughed hard after hearing Phil's statement, which caused him to furrow his eyes in confusion. "Tony bowing out to anyone. It's just not going to happen. Even if the whole world is at stake, he'll just say fuck all of it and do his own thing," Pepper replied while wiping a tear at the corner of her eye. "I hate to say it, but Tony would remain an asshole even looking down the barrel of a gun." She finished with one last chuckle. Phil compiled the details of his interviews with Stain and Potts. The two interviewees just further supported some parts of Tony Stark's psych profile. A narcissistic and arrogant individual with a prototypical character for a genius playboy billionaire philanthropist, at least that was what was in his file 4 years ago. Phil made a mental note to tell Fury to update Stark's profile. Preferably with someone getting close to Stark, since he showed a disconnect in personality with public and private persona. "Are there any details that you could tell me to help with Mr. Stark's case?" "Any detail at all?" Phil asked, subtly starting his interrogation. "Nothing, really," Pepper lied. She didn't want to burn Naruto's cover. One of the reasons for taking Tony back to that godforsaken desert is because Naruto wishes for no one to know about him, especially his unique abilities. Although, it was weird how only Tony and a technician were allowed in the demonstration. None of his security detail got the green light to be with him. She added. It's one of the reasons why she was so adamant of not letting Tony go. Only Naruto's reassurance made her confident enough to let him go. Even then, he still got a bunch of shrapnel and a massive hole for an electromagnet in his chest. That is some troubling news. We will look into that. High-profile VIPs with respectable backgrounds are allowed their security detail inside a military base. Phil replied. The technician, do you know who he is? He inquired, looking for any signs of deceit in the redhead's body language. Pepper didn't outwardly show any signs of panic. It's because of her job, which includes lying during negotiations, and her presence of mind to think of a cover story for Frank. Yeah. Tony has been talking about a new technician that had a military background. He has been keeping it all hush-hush, but he sometimes divulges some details accidentally. Pepper answered. I know for sure that his name is either Frank or Francis. She continued, giving the agent something to work with. Phil let out. He doesn't believe for a second that Pepper doesn't know more about Frank Castle, but he couldn't see any signs of distress on her. Anyway. That's all I'm here for. He said while standing up. Expect a quick response from our part. We have already sent a team to find Mr. Stark and to look into his kidnapping. He continued professionally before walking towards the door. Pepper followed closely behind Philosophy. He opened the door and stepped out of the mansion. Ms. Potts. We'll contact you again if there's any progress on Mr. Stark's case. Phil said amicably before walking towards his SUV. And a word of advice for the future. He turned around towards Pepper. There's a baby bottle under the center table. You should check under the furniture if you have any unwanted guests in the future. He finished with his trademark smile before getting in the car and driving away. Pepper was left standing at the door with mouth agape. She only snapped out of her stupor when Naruto spoke from behind her while carrying Morgan. Damn. What a power move. Naruto exclaimed with genuine awe in his voice. I didn't know Phil had it in him. He continued. You know him? Pepper asked a little threateningly, but Naruto remained ignorant to the edge in her tone. Oh yeah. He's a friend of mine. Naruto replied with a shrug. He was about to walk back in, but he saw the disbelieving look on Pepper's face. Where did you think my girlfriend works? He's one of her close friends. Pepper pushed Naruto inside the house and locked the door. And you never thought to mention it? I can't talk about it. I'm not exactly employed by S.H.I.E.L.D., and even if I am, I can't tell you guys about them since you're not immediate family. Naruto retorted when they reached the living room. Besides, where's the fun if you already know about them? He added with a chuckle. Pepper groaned, hearing Naruto's reply. Of course, he would put priority on the entertainment factor, if the situation was no real threat to anyone. Is there anything else that I should know about? Yup. Naruto replied with a wide grin. But you're not going to tell me, are you? Pepper said with a sigh, already knowing Naruto's personality. Yup. But I'll say one thing this time. Naruto let out while pulling something out from his pocket. Phil left this thing in between the couches. He's holding a small cylindrical object in his hand. This looks to be a S.H.I.E.L.D. remote hacking tool. It's not going to pass Jarvis's firewall, but better safe than sorry. I don't trust everyone in S.H.I.E.L.D. He said the last part entirely seriously. Pepper filed Naruto's statement at the back of her mind. She needs to have a sit-down talk with Naruto and find out more about S.H.I.E.L.D. But for now, there's something she needs to know. How long has S.H.I.E.L.D. known about Morgan? Pepper asked with a narrowing of her eyes. Naruto didn't have to think long about the answer. A year or two ago, I guess. Naruto answered with a shrug. And before you ask, they're not sure if I'm staying here, but they have some suspicions. He continued, still with a wide grin, while crushing the bug. Everything's a joke to you, isn't it? Pepper repeated with a chuckle. Bagram Air Force Base, Afghanistan. February 17, 2009, 0900H local. Hey, Chair Force. We got to go. Clint said as soon as he entered Rhodey's office. Rhodey was having one of the longest 4 days. He has been coordinating with different military branches and departments for Stark's rescue. There's also something he figured out while looking into Tony's case. Everything has just been a series of clusterfucks even before they got to Afghanistan. Too many coincidences and fuck-ups happened for someone to not be pulling strings in the background. The appearance of the spooks didn't help with his suspicion. A group of agents with direct orders from the Chief of Staff arrived 3 days ago. They were not taking over the whole investigation, but doing their own thing. Rhodey only ever came in contact with one of the spooks. An agent called Barton. He would have thought that he was just another guy if not for the bow and arrow he was carrying. The weird thing now, though, was Barton wearing a standard army uniform. He had no idea where he got it. Where'd you get that? And where the hell are we going? Rhodey asked while putting on his field jacket. This? I brought this uniform with me just in case. Clint answered while walking out of the door with Rhodey close behind him. As for the second question, we're going to pick up Richie Rich. He said as they were getting closer to a whirring up Sikorsky HH-60 Pave Hawk, a search and rescue chopper. You found him. Rhodey shouted, the sound of the helicopter getting louder as they were getting closer. Barton didn't answer the question right away. The pair got on the chopper with a 6-man crew of the pilot, army soldiers, and S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. He waited for Rhodey to put on the headphones before answering. There was a report of a rocket blowing high up in the sky around 150 kilometers north of here, on the other side of the mountains. The local militia saw it, which moved up the food chain until it got to us. Clint explained. What makes you think Tony the one who fired the rocket? Rhodey asked skeptically. For all he knew, it might be just some hostiles luring them in. Because 15 kilometers from the launch site was an outcrop with what is supposed to be a cave system, but it has been completely leveled. A huge explosion underneath must have caused the collapse. Clint reasoned. What he left out, though, was the scale of destruction around the area. Only one guy could cause that kind of damage, and it bodes well for Stark, but not the terrorist. Damn. What the hell happened? Rhodey mused to himself, but it remained unanswered. The chopper flew straight towards their destination for 30 minutes, with only the sounds of the helicopter and occasional radio contact breaking the relative silence. Clint was continuously scanning the surroundings, trying to find anything out of place until he spotted something in the distance. On the left. At the sand crest. Clint shouted after he saw something suddenly burning in the distance. The pilot followed Clint's direction and turned the chopper left. He noticed the fire growing larger as the helicopter turned towards it. As they got closer, Clint saw the Stark Air with 2 other people. He recognized Frank Castle, but he didn't recognize the older guy. Rhodey and the team eventually got a good look at Tony when the helicopter got significantly closer. Rhodey and a pair of crew members jumped out of the chopper as it landed and jogged towards the group. Hey, Rhodey. What took you so long? Tony shouted. Chapter 51, Press Conference. Bagram Air Force Base, Afghanistan. February 18, 2009, 1000H local. Tony, Ensign, and Frank were put through the ringer after they were rescued. They had to endure a battery of tests and exams, especially Tony. The electromagnet in his chest made the doctors really nervous. Good thing Rhodey helped out a lot by getting the interview pushed back. The military will interview them when they get back stateside. The general was really accommodating. Too accommodating for him, at least. They were now boarding Tony's private jet with Inson in tow. Tony had managed to convince Inson to work for him, even if only for a short time. The trio's time in the desert helped them learn a little more about each other, no matter how much they didn't want to talk about themselves. Even Frank revealed some details about himself that were not in his files. Out of everything Tony learned, though, nothing was more eye-opening than Inson's story. He was from the small town of Gulmira, Afghanistan, where his family had been massacred during the 10 Rings attack that resulted in him getting captured. Inson had already made peace that he would die and join his family, but Naruto's unexpected abilities made it possible for him to leave that cave relatively unscathed. Even after everything, Tony still had to convince Inson to get on the chopper and not wander in the desert alone for who knows how long. When everything was loaded up and Tony, Inson, Frank, and Rhodey got in, the private jet slowly started to move towards the runway. So, now that we're finally in private, how did you guys really get out? Rhodey asked. The story Tony kept on telling everyone is just too far-fetched to have been real. Like I told you, I was wearing a suit of armor and fought our way out of there. I then used the armor as a flare when we got some distance away from the cave. Tony replied with a bored tone. It was such a badass story that he couldn't help but tell a shortened version of their harrowing ordeal. However, he made sure to leave out Naruto's part on their escape. Rhodey was left sitting dumbfounded. His blank stare lasted through the liftoff, and until the plane reached a cruising altitude. Frank decided that he had enough making fun of the Air Force guy and gave him a hand. He unbuckled his seatbelt and walked towards Rhodey. You know, Frank started, not exactly sure on how to start the conversation. The story is a lot more impossible if you heard the whole thing. Trust me. It's better just to hear this version. He advised. You will have to ask Whiskers if you want to know everything. Tony interjected. He continued when he received a questioning look. Naruto. Whiskers is Naruto. He's like the only person we know who has whiskers. He deadpanned. Naruto? What the hell does Naruto have to do with this? Rhodey asked, genuinely confused. Well, Naruto warned us about the terrorists, for one. He also volunteered Frank here as extra protection. Tony sarcastically replied. As for the rest, you can ask Naruto yourself. All right. I'll have to ask Naruto myself. Rhodey said, giving up on getting any more information about what happened. What the hell does Naruto have to do with Tony's kidnapping? Good thing you got out of the caves before it collapsed. He added as an afterthought. We didn't actually see anything after we got out. We just wanted to get as far away as possible. Tony commented. You should have seen what happened. Rhodey giddily said while pulling out his phone. He scrolled through his phone until he found the photo that he was looking for. He called over Inson so he could show the picture to everyone at once. The small hill and the cave system under it collapsed into a 1-kilometer-wide crater. The whole thing is filled with debris and boulders. The military had no choice but to send the engineering corps to sift through the mess. He explained. The trio couldn't believe what they were seeing. They knew that Naruto collapsed the cave system when he got rid of the weapons cache, but this was the first time that they had seen the aftermath. Inson couldn't help but feel elated when he saw the decimation of the 10 rings, or at least a cell of it. Frank's training let him recover from his shock quickly. Even though that amount of destruction has rarely been seen in modern warfare, which is more focused on precision strikes, he had already seen a lot more horrifying things that happen in real life. Can you tell me more about the guy you had on the retrieval team? Frank suddenly asked, hoping to get rid of the itch that has been bugging him. Which one? Rhodey replied, acting clueless. You know the guy who was really in charge. Frank reiterated with a glare. The grunt sitting in the corner of the helicopter was definitely not a soldier. Throughout his career, he had developed a sixth sense for these kinds of things, and listening to it had never failed him before. Damn. You're too good. Rhodey mused to himself. He took a deep breath while organizing his thoughts. I don't know which agency he works for, but all I know is that he and his team came the day after your kidnapping. They had written authorization from the Joint Chiefs to conduct an investigation on Tony's disappearance. They didn't take over our side of the investigation, but they're the ones who found out about your rocket. They didn't want you guys to know who they are, obviously. He explained before remembering a detail that stood out. The weird thing was, the head honcho, Barton, carried a bow and arrow. Probably one of Naruto's weird friends. Tony commented. Don't give me that look, Frank. You're one of his weird friends. He defended after Frank gave him one of those stares. I'm not his friend. I just owed him a favor. Frank retorted. What makes you think Legolas is any different? Tony replied with a smirk. Anyway, I need to call Pepper to send 2 cars to pick us up. One for me and one to bring you 2 back to a safe house I have. We'll talk pay later after the press conference Pepper is undoubtedly organizing. He continued while picking up a phone mounted to the side of the plane. I don't need payment. This is a one-time thing and it's all pro bono. Frank responded. Just tell Naruto that we're even. He added. Your choice. Tony said with a shrug before retrieving a calling card with his personal number and handing it over to Frank. If you have any problem though, just call me anytime. Frank reluctantly took it after a moment of debate with himself. He reasoned that having someone as powerful as Tony on his side if something went wrong was just too good of an opportunity to pass up. Thanks. Frank replied with gratitude before pocketing the calling card. Van Nuys Airport, Los Angeles. February 18, 2009, 1000H local. About time you got back. Pepper greeted Tony as soon as he got out of the plane. Behind her is a black limousine and a black SUV. You have tears in your eyes. I didn't know you cared. Tony replied with a jesting tone. The couple couldn't even greet each other as they normally would since someone might be listening or taking pictures from a distance. The paparazzi are one tenacious bunch. These tears? Pepper said while wiping away the tears she didn't know was forming at the corner of her eye. These are tears of joy. I'm just glad that I don't need to find a new job. She retorted with a smile before turning towards Ensign and Frank. The SUV will take you in a fully stocked apartment in downtown LA. Help yourselves to anything in there. Ensign, Frank, and Rhodey took their bags from the porter, which didn't really have much in it, and walked towards the SUV. Tony and Pepper got in the car after the SUV left. How's Morgan? Tony asked Pepper as soon as they got in. Morgan's fine. She's just missing you a lot. Good thing Naruto keeps on distracting her. Pepper answered. Did you know Naruto's girlfriend is from S.H.I.E.L.D.? What the hell is S.H.I.E.L.D.? Tony inquired expectantly. A secret US-based international spy agency. Pepper replied. One of their agents came to the mansion to ask if you would ever betray the country. What did you say? That you're too much of an asshole to ever give in to any demands. Pepper answered seriously. Tony had to laugh hard at Pepper's reply. The divider rolled down, revealing Happy as the driver. She told you about the interview? Happy asked when he saw Tony laughing. Yup. Tony said after significantly calming down. Oh. Let's buy some cheeseburgers before going to the press conference. Got it, boss. Happy replied with a salute before rolling up the divider. Tony turned his head towards Pepper and gave her a questioning look. You're not going to tell me not to get any cheeseburgers? Tony asked. Nope. Huh. That's new. Tony mused. Backtracking a little bit. An agent came to Afghanistan. Rhodey couldn't figure out which agency he came from, but it looks like he probably came from S.H.I.E.L.D. Exactly. Agent Coulson, the guy who came by the mansion, said that they were sending someone to work your case. Pepper explained. Would you look at that? I thought that agent was just one of Naruto's friends. Tony said, genuinely surprised. He might still be one of Naruto's friends since Agent Coulson is undoubtedly one. Pepper retorted. What the hell? Just how many people does Naruto know? Tony exclaimed. Pepper just answered with a shrug. Seeing that the previous topic reached a natural conclusion, she decided to tackle an issue that was going to be a lot more stressful. I heard Naruto asked you about Morgan. Pepper segued to the topic that had been eating her for quite some time. What do you think of his offer? Tony turned more serious when he heard Pepper's statement. He had been mulling over Naruto's offer for quite some time, and he was reasonably sure that he would accept it. All he needed now was Pepper's approval. To be honest, I'm all for it. Tony confessed. No matter how impossible it is, Naruto might be a super soldier just like the captain. He also has all those weird powers of his that I still can't figure out, and it's seriously making me lose sleep. He commented before taking a deep breath. The only drawback that needs serious consideration is that Naruto tends to go a little overboard, not to mention Naruto's mental state. Pepper released a sigh since they basically arrived at the same conclusion, but she was still apprehensive about accepting Naruto's offer. There was only one thing that can make her change her mind. If he's going to work for us in any capacity, Naruto needs to tell us who or what he is and whatever the hell S.H.I.E.L.D. is. Pepper said seriously. Tony couldn't help but agree with Pepper's condition. There's just one thing he needs to point out. We should have probably asked all of that, or at least the first question, before we let him stay in the house, don't you think? Tony stated with a teasing grin. Pepper just gave him an unimpressed stare. Stark Industries, Los Angeles. February 18, 2009, 1100 H local. Tony was walking towards the main lobby of Stark Industries' Los Angeles Weapon Division corporate office with a spring in his step. Some people might not understand it, but a good cheeseburger could make anyone a whole lot happier. He even had 2 more cheeseburgers in the paper bag that Happy is carrying. As soon as he walked past the front door, he was immediately assaulted by a group of journalists and camera flashes. His security detail moved forward to control the crowd. Tony just shrugged off the attention and strode towards the podium on the stage, after taking the bag of cheeseburgers from Happy. Pepper and Happy stayed at the back of the room to watch over the conference. She made sure to place the more reliable journalists at the front with the rowdier ones at the back. This setup would make sure that the noise level from the questioning could somewhat be controlled. Hello. Mic test. 1 2 3. Tony said towards the microphone. This just will not do. He mused before taking the mounted mic and walking towards the front of the stage. He sat down with his legs hanging, cheeseburger in his right hand, and the mic in his left. So, who wants to go first? His question caused a commotion with the audience. Almost everyone was raising their hands and shouting their questions, hoping to get an edge over the others. Tony pointed to a blonde journalist wearing a relatively skimpy outfit. It looked like Tony's playboy ways were not entirely gone, and Pepper certainly noticed it, evident by her raised eyebrow. The blonde reporter stood up, revealing her model-like body. Christine Everhart, WHIH World News. There are some reports that the military didn't actually rescue you from your captors. Is there any truth to these rumors? Christine asked with an underlying sultry tone. Christine Everhart was a 5 feet 9 inches blonde-haired Caucasian who had one goal in this press conference: try to seduce the Stark billionaire. There were rumors that Tony Stark has not been biting any baits for at least 3 years. She was here to test that rumor. The easiest way to rise through the ranks was to get an exclusive in any way possible, even using her body to do it. No comment. Tony answered quickly. The military had warned him not to release any details of his capture and rescue. He was more than ready to tell the whole story to the public, but he wouldn't be the only one that was going to be affected by the inquiry if he disobeyed that warning. In a completely unrelated note, the guys in Bagram should increase their intelligence gathering net if it took them 3 days to find a kilometer-wide crater. But of course, he would always find a way around any problem. Pepper rubbed her forehead, already anticipating the shitstorm that would come their way. Tony then pointed to another journalist, a male one. This put off Everhart since she expected her subtle tactic to seduce Tony Stark to work better than just gaining his momentary attention. It was reported that you were rescued alongside 2 other individuals. Can you tell us more about these 2 individuals? The reporter asked. Oh, come on. Tony exclaimed. Can't anyone ask a question that I can answer? It's like you guys don't want to write anything, he said with a sigh. The reporters couldn't help but acknowledge Tony's comment. High-profile scenarios involving the military usually have the information tightly controlled, but the challenge it presents just fires up the journalists even more. Just bug the Pentagon if you want answers, he suggested before standing back on top of the stage. Let me give you guys something to write about, he stated, causing the reporters to go silent. Pepper immediately got a bad premonition from Tony's statement, eerily similar to the one she got after the Vegas incident. It looks like Tony wanted everyone to remain in suspense since he took another cheeseburger and set it on the podium. Do you know what he's going to say? Obadiah suddenly asked beside her, slightly surprising Pepper. She turned her head towards him and answered. I have no idea. He didn't tell me anything. Let's just hope it's not too big of an announcement, Obadiah replied. Obadiah is using every ounce of his composure not to show any negative expression. All of his plans are crumbling before his eyes. There's only one last Hail Mary plan that might work, and he has no control over it. Tony needed to shake the trust of the board of directors for them to start a vote of non-confidence. Some distance away from them, however, is Phil, listening in on the press conference, as well as Potts and Stain's conversation. I might only have been gone for a week, but man did I miss cheeseburgers, Tony said after finishing his second burger. His statement caused some of the journalists to laugh. Anyway, as the CEO of Stark Industries, I'm suspending indefinitely the operation of the weapons manufacturing department as well as other military equipment and transport production companies under Stark Industries. This includes Lockheed, Boeing, Raytheon, and others. All existing contracts would all be put on hold as per Article 4, Paragraph 6. Tony announced. Obadiah felt glee with how much uproar Tony's announcement would cause. Still, Article 4, Paragraph 6 of all standard Stark Industries contract involves deals that may constitute a breach of national security, and there's only one reason Tony would cite it now. Stark Industries will do an audit on all transactions going back 15 years. I want to see every fuck-up that happened, he said entirely seriously. Well, isn't that exciting? He finished with a laugh. The reporters were left speechless, as well as Pepper, Happy, Phil, and especially Obadiah. Only Tony's laughter caused everyone to snap out of their stupor. The whole room was suddenly drowned, with the reporters firing their questions. I'll head back to the office. We need to get ahead of this before it blows out of proportion, Obadiah told Pepper. He needed to have a team check and balance production and sales. He might not be able to hide it entirely, but he could buy himself enough time to take over the company. You two make sure to change Tony's mind, or he might break the company, he said before walking away. Pepper stared at the retreating form of Obadiah, an idea forming at the back of her mind. She had been monitoring the stock sales since Tony asked her to look over Naruto's stock investment in the company, and she had seen some disturbing moves. Everything might be normal to an amateur, but her experience tells her otherwise. It was all a setup for a takeover, and there's only one person who would be in a position for it. Pepper's musing abruptly ended though when Tony spoke again. One statement that will definitely land him on the couch. That's all the time I have. I still need to get home to my family, Tony said while waving his hand dismissingly. Silence once again dominated the room, causing him to laugh internally. It was refreshing to be on the other side of the headache. Although, he could see Pepper at the back of the room, giving him the stink eye. Excuse me? Not to be crass. Christine raised her hand, pulling everyone's attention towards her. But what family? Tony picked up the microphone and walked towards the Pepper and Happy at the back of the room. When he got to the back, he handed over the bag with the cheeseburger to Happy and reached for something inside it. My daughter and fiancé, Tony said before retrieving a ring box inside the bag and opening it towards Pepper. Or my soon-to-be fiancé if she says yes. Chapter 52, Info Dump. Stark Industries, Los Angeles. February 18, 2009, 11:30 H local. Pepper's face turned a shade of red that rivaled her hair. All her cognitive abilities seemed to have simultaneously stopped. Everything outside a small area circling both Tony and her faded away. Tony's proposal might be unorthodox, but it was just like him to do something on a whim. She was about to give him an answer when something barreled through between them and tackled Tony, almost causing him to fall. Daddy! Morgan shouted. The revelation of Tony Stark's relationship going on long enough for him to propose and have a kid was already sufficient enough to make every reporter lose their mind. But the arrival of a little girl, who clearly looked to be at least 4 years old, and had the Stark and Potts features, just further drove the point. Hey, Morgan! Tony greeted in surprise. What are you doing here? He asked after picking up Morgan. Ruto brought me, Morgan answered, pointing to a hallway. She then turned her head towards the people, all the journalists, and cameras pointing towards them. Her inherent shyness due to her relative isolation caused her to try to hide her face in Tony's neck. Who are they, Daddy? She asked. Don't mind them, honey, Tony softly said. He felt Morgan nod before setting herself in his arms. He looked back towards Pepper. Pep, I still need an answer. In the hallway that Morgan had pointed to, Phil and Naruto were watching the family interaction that occurred after Naruto let Morgan run towards her father. Hey, Philosophy. How are you? Naruto asked as he stopped beside the SHIELD agent. Everything's fine, Phil replied with his trademark smile. I have to say you're making my job a lot harder, he stated. Now, why is that? Naruto retorted with a teasing smile. Well, you managed to make most, if not all, protective surveillance measures on one of the agency's VIPs impossible, Phil replied. Isn't that like a breach of privacy? Not if Howard Stark himself technically hired us. Oh yeah. That, Naruto said sheepishly, forgetting why SHIELD was interested in Tony. Either way, you guys suck at guarding him, he added childishly before extending his tongue. Phil couldn't deny Naruto's statement since what he said wasn't exactly a lie. There were a lot of restrictions in place, preventing them from doing their job to its full capacity, which led to Tony Stark's Vegas fiasco and kidnapping. Philosophy, Naruto called him with a serious tone. This caused Phil to turn his head towards Naruto, who was still looking at the family. Do you guys have any idea who the mastermind is? He asked. Phil would have acted clueless now, but Naruto's serious expression made him change his mind. Nothing concrete, but I have a guess. We're looking into it now, Phil answered, making sure to leave out the name. His goal was to either stop Naruto from investigating further, or at least bargain that information away, but it looked like none of it would work today. Naruto had no patience to play the back and forth that Phil was clearly trying to start, so he did something a little more drastic. He turned his towards Phil with his Shinigami activated. Phil slowly opened his eyes. He knew something happened, but nothing seemed to be amiss except for a weak headache. Trusting his instincts, he tried to recall the last few moments, but he felt a gap in his memory. So, Obadiah Stane, huh? That makes sense. Phil heard Naruto say out of nowhere, looking at the family. That simple statement gave Phil an idea of what might have happened. What did you do? Phil asked, slightly panicked. Never mind that. Naruto retorted dismissively, causing Phil to frown. He looked towards Phil and continued. Don't do anything to Stain. I'm not going to do anything either. Tell Fury to let Tony handle it for now, but be ready to step in at any time. He said without any room for argument. His demeanor suddenly changed to a more relaxed one. Looks like Pepper is about to answer. Pepper stared Tony straight into his eyes and said, I'm hyphenating. Pepper's answer caused Tony to smile brightly, which she mirrored. It also sent the reporters clamoring towards the family, and it looked like their security detail would be overwhelmed. This looks to be getting out of hand, Naruto said before walking towards a blind corner. Phil had no idea what Naruto was going to do, but it was quickly answered with Naruto's reappearance. He was now wearing a suit similar to Stark's security detail, and behind him was a small army of similarly dressed people with different faces. Follow me. They'll definitely want to talk to you. Naruto quickly jogged towards the venerable horde, followed by his hinged clones. He went straight towards the family while the clones pushed the reporters back. His appearance, though, took the family and Happy aback. Mr. Stark, Ms. Potts. The car is ready, Naruto said while pointing towards the exit. He also gave Happy a small gesture to get the car, which Happy understood evident by his sudden departure. Naruto led the family out of the building with Coulson close behind. Congratulations, guys. Naruto greeted when they finally got some distance away from the chaos. I thought Tony would sh it back again, he commented, making sure to make his statement kid-friendly for Morgan. Thanks. Tony replied slowly before changing the topic. Why did you bring Morgan, and who's the guy behind you? That's Agent Coulson, and answer the question, Naruto. Pepper interjected while giving Naruto a stern glare. Well, Morgan and I were playing with the TV on. I'm scrolling through the channels when I came around a live interview of yours. When you reached the part where you revealed your daughter, I came right away. Naruto explained. Your plan to suspend your weapons manufacturing will bring some heat down on you and your new family. So what better time to fully reveal Morgan than after your announcement to give those piranhas something to report on? I just didn't expect you to propose right after. He added. Look at the bright side, though. No one will talk about your statement for sure after all of that. Naruto's answer was exactly what they would expect from him. A stupid plan that would somehow work one way or another. Still, just thinking of the public relations nightmare headed their way gave Pepper a headache, so she decided to change the topic for now. Why is your agent friend following us? Pepper asked after they got through the door. You're going to want to talk about S.H.I.E.L.D., aren't you? Then who better to ask than an agent himself? Just don't expect him to answer, Naruto replied. Phil, on the other hand, started thinking about everything he could say without repercussions. Naruto. I'll follow behind. I need to make some calls, Phil said before walking towards a parked SUV a distance away. Phil will probably call Fury, Naruto mused right before a limo stopped in front of them. The family got on the back seat while Naruto got in on the passenger side. Hey, Happy. Find anything new to do? Aside from upping the security protocol as usual, he said as a start to a conversation, adding the last part as a quip. Not much. I started boxing again though. Trying to up my skills just in case, Happy answered. He was also thinking about how he might teach Tony some moves to make him be able to defend himself. Nice. Call me if you ever need a sparring partner. Naruto replied. On the other side of the screen, Tony and Pepper are sitting facing each other with Morgan sleeping beside Tony, holding onto his arm. So, we're going to hire him, right? Tony asked Pepper sheepishly. We have no other choice, do we? You basically announced it on live television and Naruto brought Morgan. Pepper replied with a raised eyebrow. But, it would be less stressful to hire a group of ex-special forces. We should probably look into that. She added half seriously. An army of every SAS and SEALs combined can't hold a candle to Naruto. Ask Rody to show you the crater to understand what I'm saying. He'll know what I'm talking about. Tony suggested with a serious tone. Pepper immediately filed Tony's suggestion away for later. By the way, I'm uploading Jarvis in the corporate system. Why? Pepper asked, genuinely confused. I'm going to upgrade Jarvis's system to do a full sweep of everything. There will also be an old school audit, but only you and I will know about Jarvis being in the system. Tony explained. Pepper's expression softened. She could see an underlying tension in Tony's demeanor. Be honest with me, Tony. Why are you doing all of this? What happened over there? Pepper asked softly. Tony released a sigh. He should have known that Pepper could see his anxiety. You know that a mortar caused this, right? Tony asked, to which Pepper nodded while trying to hold back her tears. What I didn't tell you was that the mortar had my name on it. Your name? I don't understand. The mortar was made by Stark Industries. Tony clarified. This drew a gasp from Pepper. The whole thing finally made sense to her. It's not just that. They had a massive cache of weapons with Stark Industries on it. On our way out of the cave, we blew up as much of it as possible. He explained. We apparently missed a cache inside the cave since we were rushing to get out, but Naruto took care of it. The pair sat in silence after Tony's statement, individually thinking about how the company should move forward in the future. You know what? I hate all this serious talk. Let's talk about something more fun. Tony said with a smile. Let's talk about the wedding. Pepper had to smile at Tony's redirection. She could always depend on Tony to add some levity to her life. Natasha's Safe House, New York. February 18, 2009, 1400 H local. Hey, Nat. There's some leftover pizza in the fridge if you like. Jessica greeted Natasha as soon as she got into the apartment. This was one of the few moments of free time she had throughout the week due to the increased workload because of her accelerated program. Thanks, but I already ate. Natasha replied before tossing her bag at the side of the door and flopping on the couch beside Jessica. Jessica saw her tensed shoulder, so she decided to give her a massage. That's the spot. Thanks. She said in gratitude while holding back her moans. Must have been a stressful mission if you have this much tension in you. Jessica asked rhetorically. By the way, Naruto hasn't come by for at least 3 days. She added. Sounds about right. Natasha commented softly. I guess I can tell you about the mission this time. She said. Natasha rarely tells Jessica about her missions since a lot of them are above top secret, but from time to time, she would let out vague mission parameters and let Jessica work it out. Still, there are low-priority or public-related missions that come her way, so she tells Jessica the whole thing. All of Natasha's efforts to hide it were sometimes for naught since Naruto would occasionally get carried away with his storytelling and let out details of her missions to Jessica. You know about Tony Stark's kidnapping? Natasha inquired since it would be a whole lot easier if Jessica knows about that piece of news. Yup. Billionaire kidnapped in Afghanistan late last week. Found yesterday, I think. Jessica replied. I might not be updated in current events, but that kind of news would find a way to reach everyone. She added with a smug grin. Good to know. Natasha said with a smile. Anyway, due to reasons I can't tell you, S.H.I.E.L.D. has a special interest in the guy. It's been all hands on deck since news of his kidnapping got to us. I have been working my contacts to find anything new about the situation. She explained. As for Naruto, he might be doing the same thing as I am, or he could be babysitting Stark. Why the hell would Naruto babysit Stark? Jessica asked, genuinely confused. Didn't Naruto tell you? Jessica shook her head no to Natasha's question. Naruto has known Tony Stark personally since almost the moment he arrived here. Search for Tony Stark Vegas incident. You'll find an unnamed partner of his. That's Naruto. So, he has been causing trouble from the moment he got here. Good to know. Jessica said with a chuckle. I also have a suspicion that Naruto sometimes stays at Stark's mansion. Natasha added. So, living with two hot ladies willing to have sex with him isn't enough? He needs to live in a mansion too. That's good to know. Jessica replied sarcastically. Don't worry about that. I'm reasonably sure Naruto is worth at least $1 billion, so he could buy himself a mansion anytime he wants. Add to the fact that he could create anything he wants out of thin air, and he could be the richest person in the whole world. There must be another reason why he's staying there. Natasha said. That's when she noticed that Jessica's massage stopped, so she turned around and saw a shocked Jessica. Hey, Jess. Are you alright? Jessica froze when she heard how much Naruto was worth. She hadn't even thought about how Naruto's creation ability could be used to make anything he wanted. That train of thought somehow made her feel empty inside. All she could think about is the distance between Naruto and her. The reason why she never dated anyone after Sterling is because of her inability to process emotions well. Being an introvert with PTSD and survivor's guilt syndrome can do that to anyone. The only reason she accepted Natasha's weird offer was because she was in a bad position in life, and one of her outlets was sex. Now, she somehow caught feelings for a guy in a relationship with what could arguably be called her best friend. What a fucked up situation to be in. Hey, Jess. Are you okay? Natasha asked while shaking Jessica a little. Yeah. I'm fine. Jessica reassured her as she got out of her stupor. Natasha stared at Jessica for a moment. As an expert in reading body language and psychology, she could accurately guess what Jessica's thinking. She internally smiled since she can now move to the next part of her plan. You know what? I know that Stark would hold a press conference right around now. Natasha said as she reached for the remote. Okay. Jessica weakly replied. Natasha turned on the TV and surfed the channels until she found what she was looking for. As the CEO of Stark Industries. The television blared out, running through Tony Stark's statement. Natasha could already picture the mess his announcement would cause. She knows for a fact that S.H.I.E.L.D. got a lot of their armaments from Stark Industries through the military. Fury would surely fucking lose it. Or my soon-to-be fiancé if she says yes. So that's why he's rarely in the news these past few years. Good for him. Jessica commented when the TV showed Tony proposing to the redhead. That's Virginia Potts. His longtime assistant. Natasha said, giving Jessica some context. That's when a kid suddenly runs straight towards Tony. And that's probably their daughter. 3 years old, I think. We have no records on her. Jessica chuckled at Natasha's disgruntled face. It's like she couldn't believe that S.H.I.E.L.D. was unsuccessful in finding anything concrete about a little girl. Her amusement stopped when she saw what was happening on the television. Hey, Nat, isn't that getting a little dangerous? Jessica asked, referring to the venerable stampede headed towards the family. Fuck. That's what happens when stuff happens too much too soon. Natasha commented. She couldn't do anything being 4,000 kilometers away. A few moments later though, the pair saw something that they were not expecting. Isn't that Naruto? Jessica said while pointing to Naruto wearing a suit. Yup. Natasha replied with a groan. And that's my co-worker behind him. She pointed to an average-looking man behind Naruto before reaching for the remote and turning the TV off. I don't want to deal with all of that while I'm on my break. Natasha decided that now was as good a time as any to deal with something that she had been thinking about for quite a while. Jessica saw Natasha leaning on the couch beside her, making sure she's comfortable. Natasha then patted her things, urging Jessica to lie on it. After Jessica laid down reluctantly, Natasha started running her hands through Jessica's hair. Jess, I want you to be honest with me. Natasha said out of the blue, causing Jessica's heart rate to skyrocket. A super spy trained to remain emotionless, and an emotionally stunted enhanced having a heart-to-heart, what could go wrong? Are you in love with Naruto? Natasha could feel Jessica immediately tense. She continued brushing Jessica's hair to calm her down, but seeing that Jessica wouldn't answer, Natasha started talking again. In Naruto's world, there's a law called the Clan Restoration Act or CRA. It says that when a clan is down to the last few members, each surviving member could be paired with 2 or more individuals to increase the clan's population rapidly. Natasha explained. Polygamy and polyamorous relationship is the norm in their world due to the imbalance between genders. Do you understand what I'm getting at? Jessica already knew about all that, although she didn't give any of it a second thought. It was a concept so foreign to her that she just pushed away at the corner of her mind. So, there's no reason for all of us to be together unless you don't want to. Natasha whispered to Jessica's ear. There's just one thing you need to know before deciding. I haven't talked to Naruto about all of this, but I'm giving you an out after you hear what I'm going to say. She felt Jessica nod slowly. We both know Naruto is an immortal. I managed to talk him into considering making me partially immortal. I know it's a stupid idea, but I just can't imagine Naruto being alone throughout eternity. She explained. You want to doom yourself into eternity for a guy? I thought you were supposed to be immune to feelings? Jessica retorted half-jokingly after a few minutes of silence. She then stood up and walked towards the door. Don't worry, Nat. She reassured when she saw Natasha's worried expression. I'll come back. I don't know what my answer will be, but I won't just up and go. She said before walking entirely out of the door. Damn. Too much too soon. Natasha said to herself, forgetting her statement earlier. Jessica, on the other hand, had no idea where to go. Ever since Nat and Naruto came into her life, it had been like a roller coaster ride, and she was not sure if she liked it. Why can't everything be simple? Jessica felt like she was slowly drowning in her thoughts. As a desperate measure to talk to someone, she took her phone from her pocket and dialed a number. After a few rings, somebody finally answered. She released a deep breath before talking. Hey, Trish. I need someone to talk to. Can we meet somewhere? Chapter 53, Coffee Talk. Downtown Manhattan, New York. February 18, 2009, 1600 H local. Come on. You fought in a Russian underground fighting rink. This isn't that different. Jessica said to herself while walking back and forth in front of a Starbucks. She had no idea why she was more nervous about the prospect of talking with her adoptive sister than going into a bar fight. You're being stupid. Just go in there and talk to her. She whispered. Jessica was debating with herself if she should just cancel the whole impromptu meeting with her sister when the choice was taken away from her. Jess. A voice suddenly called her name from behind her. When Jessica turned around, she saw a woman walking towards her. The woman's name is Patricia Walker or simply Trish, though she called herself Patsy before her whole image change. She's a 5 feet 8 inches Caucasian woman with blonde hair and green eyes. She is currently wearing a brown coat with what's more than likely a dress underneath and stiletto heels. No one could deny her beautiful face and sexy figure. Trish was a talented individual who quickly became a young star. And just like other young stars, the newly found freedom and pressure of her profession caused her life to go down the drain. Even at Jessica's lowest point in her life, she didn't reach Trish's level. The last time Jessica even saw her sister was at a club when she stopped Trish from having a one-night stand with the drug-dealing owner. Trish voluntarily entered into rehab after that incident. The adoptive siblings hadn't seen each other for more than 3 years, though Jessica still kept track of Trish's whereabouts. Trish was able to turn her life around and is now working as a producer at a radio station. Jessica stood frozen for a few moments, studying how healthy her sister looked compared to when she last saw her. After she snapped out of her stupor, she walked towards Trish and gave her a quick hug. This time, it was Trish who was shocked, since for as long as she had known Jessica, she had never initiated a hug or any other sign of physical affection. The most she would do was pat someone on the shoulder. It looked like she wasn't the only one who changed in the past 3 years. Trish decided not to point this out, cause this may cause Jessica to clam up. She instead hugged her tightly. "Let's get inside and warm up," Trish suggested when they separated. Jessica nodded weakly before the pair entered the coffee shop. "You still want the same thing?" she asked, to which Jessica nodded again. "Okay. I'll order for us. Just find a seat." Jessica nodded again before walking away. Trish was surprised again. Jessica prides herself as a strong, independent woman and wouldn't take any form of charity from anyone. Jessica would always insist on buying her drink and even paying for her guest. Whatever caused her to change this much must be something huge. Or it could all just be a side effect of whatever distressed her enough to call an essentially estranged sister. Jessica, on the other hand, was sitting on a table staring at nowhere in particular. Her brain was working in overdrive. The talk she had with Natasha really messed up her mind. So much so that she didn't notice Trish sitting in front of her until Trish practically shoved the coffee up her nose. "Latte with 2 pumps of caramel and a cream cheese bagel," Trish said with a smile. "Thanks," Jessica said as she took the coffee and bagel. She took a sip of the coffee before looking back to Trish. "So, how are you? I heard you got a job with WNEX," she asked. Of course, she already knew a lot about Trish's life, including that little piece of information, but it's better to start with some small talk. "Good to know you're still checking up on me," Trish commented with a teasing grin, though Jessica only gave her a raised eyebrow. "Yup. Got a job as a production assistant 1.5 years ago. Worked my way up to a producer. Although, I just heard that I'd be able to get my own show that I'll host," she explained. "That's awesome," Jessica genuinely said. "What are you going to do with your show?" Not sure yet, but I'm going to pitch a talk show about helping other people," Trish answered. "I might not be a superhero, but I might be able to help other people. I say it's still a dream come true," she continued, referring both to Jessica's abilities and her childhood dream about being a superhero. "But enough about all of that. Let's get to the reason why you called me," she said a lot more seriously. "Don't get me wrong. I love that you called me, but you're obviously dying to talk about what's on your mind," she finished. Jessica released a deep sigh after Trish's statement. She called Trish to talk about her unique situation, but she didn't want Trish to think she was just using her. There was also the fact that she didn't really want to talk about her strange relationship with her roommates. After a few moments of thinking, she finally decided to tackle the topic head-on. "How open-minded are you?" Jessica asked with a soft voice. Trish raised an eyebrow and looked at Jessica like she was asking a stupid question. You already know the answer to that. With my history, it would be pretty hypocritical of me to think any less of people for what they do. Trish explained. Well, what do you think about joining a threesome? That's pretty low on the list. That's something a lot of people experience in college. Trish commented. I'm pretty sure I did a lot more than a threesome. She half-jokingly added. Jessica took a bite of the bagel and a sip of her coffee. She noted that the coffee was just increasing her nervousness. How stupid is this coffee idea? We should just have gone to a bar. Jessica mused, causing Trish to release a light chuckle. Ugh. I can't tell you the whole thing. We would go to prison the moment I blurted out. Trish was surprised at Jessica's assertion. How does a threesome cause someone to go into prison? You should start with what you can tell me. Trish suggested. Jessica nodded, seeing that was the only reasonable thing she could do. So, I found a guy who has a stronger version of my condition. Jessica started, referring to her superhuman strength and durability. I now know for a fact that there are a lot of people like me, and there's an organization that monitors all of us. I can't tell you more about them though. They're listening in on us right now. Trish suddenly turned a little paranoid, looking around, trying to find something amiss, but she couldn't find anything. The guy in the red hoodie behind you, and the chick in the dress to my left. There's also the beige SUV parked outside. Don't look at them. Jessica pointed out. Living with Naruto and Natasha honed her already impressive observation skills. It also helped with the lessons they taught about espionage, self-defense, and intuitive thinking. Fuck. You're under surveillance? Trish asked disbelievingly. Not all the time. They don't surveil me at home, and they don't use audio surveillance. Think of it as protecting me from anyone that might take an interest, since that's how they do it with non-violent individuals. Jessica retorted, shrugging off Trish's concern. But never mind about that, the guy I'm talking about has a girlfriend. They were serious but not together long before I came into the picture, or was pulled into the mayhem. How long ago was this? Trish asked. More than a year and a half ago, I think. Jessica answered. The girlfriend was my neighbor that had moved into the building a year before all this, and the guy has a weird living arrangement that caused him to stay at my neighbor's apartment most of the time. The whole building knew when he was there. Why? Does he cause trouble or something? No, not really. Jessica said sheepishly. It's just when he and my neighbor had sex. You could hear my neighbor moaning to Kingdom Come. And since he's a super, you could feel the building shake. She explained. I'm not even sure how Nat survived. She whispered to herself, but Trish heard it all the same. So, your neighbor's name is Nat. You might as well spill the name of the guy. Trish reasoned. Jessica released a sigh. The name Naruto isn't as common as Nat here in the States. Trish could easily find Naruto through her connections. I can give you an alias of his. Some people call him Nathan. Jessica said. Wow. An alias, huh? What is he, a spy? Trish asked rhetorically with a teasing grin. No. Not him. Nat is. Jessica retorted, leaving Trish slack-jawed. They have a weird romance, and I can't get into that now. She added. Anyway, Nat basically tapped out against Nathan in bed, so she pulled me in. And of course, you said yes. Yup, and it has continued up until now. What happened? Trish asked. Nat asked me if I would like to enter a more permanent relationship. Jessica answered, not really sure how to phrase it. She would leave Nathan to be with you? Trish inquired for clarification. Jessica slammed her head at the table. She was stressing over how hard it was to explain her situation. No. It's a menage a trois type deal. And it was this Nat that asked you? Nathan didn't pressure her in any way whatsoever. Trish questioned to be sure. No way. Nat practically forced Nathan to accept the arrangement. And when Nat asked me this afternoon, Nathan has been AWOL for at least 3 days. Jessica explained, glossing over her almost slip-up. Don't get me wrong, but is he gay or something? Oh. That's a definite no. Jessica replied, while her cheeks reddened. That's right. He's basically a beast in bed if he can keep up with you. Trish teased before going back to the topic. If you're okay with the arrangement and you like at least one of them, why not? She suggested. You like at least one of them, don't you? Jessica shyly nodded. It's the guy, right? Jessica nodded again. Then what's the problem? Jessica took a moment to think. If she was honest with herself, she was ready to accept Natasha's offer, but when she heard about Nat's plan for the future, it caused her to think twice. Nathan has a weird lineage. Jessica started. He came from an isolated place where he's basically a member of royalty. Because he's the last surviving member, he's expected to have multiple wives. She explained. There's an even bigger problem that would cause most people to back away, but I can say that if I don't change, I'll be left behind. Although I can still join whether I change or not. She finished, thinking about Naruto's immortality and Natasha's plan to join in the future. Is that change good or bad? Trish asked. She was not one of those people who advocates not to change for anyone since she knows that not all changes were bad. Best I can say is that if everyone in the world were offered the choice, it would be a 50-50th split. Jessica answered. Immortality is one of those divisive topics. What the hell? Why can't you just tell me? Because either you won't believe me or everything you know about how the universe works would be turned upside down. Jessica replied. Aren't you exaggerating this just a little bit, Jess? Ha ha ha. I'm not exaggerating at all. Well, fuck. Trish commented. I don't know what to tell you, Jess. I think you're the first person ever to experience this kind of problem. She said with a sigh. The first time she saw her sister again, and Jessica decided to bring in a major headache. If every one of her future callers asked her about problems like this, she would probably just quit. All I can say is do what you think you want and deal with the consequence later. You don't have to decide anything for now either. It doesn't seem like they're forcing you. Jessica listened to what Trish said and arrived at one inescapable fact. Ugh. You're useless. That's what I was thinking too. Jessica replied with a groan before dropping her head onto the table. Natasha's Safe House, New York. February 18, 2009, 2100 H local. Good to be home. Naruto exclaimed as soon as he got into the apartment. Naruto had a pretty long week. Between babysitting Tony and distracting Morgan, he barely had time to check on Nat and Jessica to make sure they were okay. After the limo got to Tony's downtown apartment, they noticed that Phil wasn't following them. Naruto surmised that Phil was called in by Fury to prevent Phil from spilling anything. Tony and Pepper tried to pump Naruto about S.H.I.E.L.D., but he just brushed everything off and told them he would answer questions some other time. Naruto went straight inside Tony's apartment before flopping on the couch. Tony and Pepper discussed a lot of topics that took them hours to finish. It included Inson's job interview, Frank's payment, some small talk with Rhodey, and a whole range of topics. Morgan eventually woke up, so he relegated himself with babysitting duty. Adulting isn't really his thing. When Naruto noticed the conversation winding down, he silently said goodbye to Morgan before placing his hand on Frank and promptly disappearing, surprising everyone. Naruto dropped off Frank to the nearest Hirosaki mark near Frank's house before quickly disappearing again. He just didn't have enough energy to do anything else, but to cuddle with Natasha and bond with Jessica. Nat, Jess. Anyone home? Naruto loudly asked through the apartment. He tries to only use his worldwide sensing ability for long periods unless he's specifically looking for someone. Being able to sense anything in the world takes away all the fun in life, and was just plain creepy. When no one answered, he immediately activated his sensing ability, as well as his Sharingan in worry. Weirdly enough, he found Natasha in her dance studio at an old warehouse he renovated for her to support Natasha's love for ballet. But due to Nat's hectic schedule, she only does it when she's stressed and worried. Even her negligible chakra reflected her mood. On the other hand, Jessica was walking around Central Park. Her chakra was also turbulent, showing her more than probably chaotic feelings and thoughts, although it was slowly ebbing away. Both of them having chaotic chakra signatures couldn't be a coincidence. Something probably happened between the two. Seeing that Natasha was in a secured area, he decided to Hiroshin towards Jessica, who was coincidentally sitting underneath one of his accidental Hiroshin gate trees. After Jessica left from her impromptu meeting with Trish, she wasn't any closer to finding a solution to her headache. She decided to take a long walk around the city, eventually working her way towards Central Park when it became dark. As Jessica was walking around, she came across a cherry blossom tree. Although it was weird to see a cherry blossom so far away from the rest, she just brushed it off, sitting on a bench next to the tree. Somehow, this particular cherry blossom tree was calming her down. Something about it seemed familiar to her. Jessica's peace and serenity didn't last long though. "What you thinking about?" Naruto asked after suddenly appearing next to Jessica. She was naturally shocked by his appearance, causing her to almost jump high up into the air. "Naruto? What the hell? When did you get back?" Jessica rapidly asked after calming herself down. She long gave up on trying to rid Naruto of that particular nasty habit of his. "I got home a few minutes ago to an empty apartment. Naturally, I was worried since I know you guys were home this afternoon. That's why I tried to find you too. I immediately knew something was wrong when Natasha was doing ballet. Your chaotic chakra signature just proved my point." Naruto answered before invading Jessica's personal space, causing her to lean back. She also pulled up her scarf to hide her reddening cheeks. "So, tell me, Jess. What happened?" Jessica should have expected the question. Naruto was a straightforward guy who would always choose to barrel through a problem than think about it for too long. She must have remained stationary for too long since Naruto was already starting to poke her cheeks like a kid. "You okay, Jess?" Naruto asked, unconsciously flashing his puppy dog eyes. Yeah. Jessica replied with a shake of her head before releasing a sigh. "I can't tell you what happened. Nat said some stuff that shook me up, that's all," she explained. "Can't tell me, huh? That just makes me want to know about it more," Naruto teased. "But I'm going to let it slide for now. Although, I need you ladies to talk it out. Your stress levels are off the roof. Good thing yours is going down." "Yeah. I just felt calmer when I got near this tree," Jessica replied. "You just had to break the peace," she continued cheekily. Naruto released a pure-bellied laugh. When he calmed down, he turned his head around towards the cherry blossom tree. "You do know that this is one of my trees?" Naruto asked. "Your tree?" Jessica asked, confused by his statement. "Yup," Naruto said. "This tree is one of the accidental physical manifestations of my dimensional anchors. I didn't even know the flash of light that happened along with the trees when I arrived. I only found out about it while I was traveling," he explained. "So it's my tree. It absorbs a whole lot of nature chakra and releases some in a controlled manner. That's probably why you feel calm." Jessica finally had the reason for the really weird calming feeling. "I should have gone to Central Park sooner if it's like this," Jessica commented. "It probably wouldn't have worked before." Naruto retorted. If this affected everybody, we would see people everywhere. Only you and Nat should be affected because you both experienced nature chakra from me. He continued. Anyway, want me to bring you to Nat, or should I just leave? He asked. Jessica thought about it for a moment. She hated that she couldn't seem to make a straightforward decision, even after all the time she had spent thinking about it. Let's just get this over with. Jessica replied, which Naruto understood. He reached for Jessica's hand before disappearing. Chapter 54, Starks in the Know. Natasha's Dance Studio, New York. February 18, 2009, 2200 H local. The Red Room was a Russian spy program that developed super spies. Their preferred recruits were orphan girls or females who were sold by impoverished families to the government. They took young girls, 5 years old being the oldest, and trained them in batches. The program itself was one of the projects that originated from the Cold War. They aimed to create spies that could infiltrate anywhere and get close to anyone. The girls would be taught everything a spy should know. They were trained in hand-to-hand, ranged, and unorthodox combat strategies, seduction, information gathering, espionage, and covert operations. All of this was done while they were slowly being brainwashed with subtle suggestions and propaganda to think of the motherland as being above everything else. One of the cover stories for the Red Room was that they were a Russian ballet troupe that trains prima ballerinas. They were obviously taught ballet to reinforce that story. Natasha held on to ballet as a hobby, practicing it even after escaping from the Red Room. Although, she doesn't do it as much as she wants. That was why Natasha was touched when Naruto gifted her a private and secured dance studio. It also has an underground shooting range, dojo, and gym. Natasha had been dancing for almost 6 hours when the warehouse security system, placed by Naruto, informed her that someone had entered the warehouse. Judging by the lack of red alerts, the visitor must have been Naruto. Although she still retrieved her gun in preparation for the off chance of someone managing to break through Naruto's over-the-top security system. She also wiped some sweat off to make herself presentable. When Natasha heard footsteps on the other side of the door, she subtly concealed the gun behind her. This was to give herself the option to surprise her possible opponent. So, it was a surprise that it was neither Naruto nor a stranger that walked through the door but rather Jessica. Nice place you got here, Nat. Jessica commented confidently, but Natasha could see the underlying tension. Yeah. I should have brought you over sooner. Natasha replied with a smile before placing the gun down with her other stuff. How'd you get in anyway? She asked, although she was reasonably sure what the answer would be. Naruto brought me. Jessica answered, confirming what Natasha thought. He basically forced me to talk to you. Why? Something about the state of our chakra bothering him or something. Jessica explained, not remembering Naruto's explanation. He got home a few hours ago, and he couldn't find us. So, in a Naruto-ish fashion, he tracked us both down. I have no idea why he came to me though. Probably because I'm here. This place is more secure than the White House. Natasha commented. Although she knows that the White House has a laughable security system. Fury occasionally sends her in to test weaknesses, and she always finds at least a dozen gaps. But the analogy still works. So, where's Naruto anyway? She asked while stripping off her clothes, not minding that she had an audience, to change into something not drenched in sweat. Jessica's eyes were glued to the mini-strip show that Natasha was performing. Nat had such a high degree of refined sexuality, that she has no trouble seducing even straight ladies or gay men. Jessica snapped out of her stupor when she noticed that Nat had already changed and was now staring at her. He said something about getting out of our hair for a while and going back to LA. Apparently, the Starks wants to hire him to protect their kid. Jessica answered. Huh. Fury should probably know about this. Natasha said to herself before taking her gym bag and walking towards the underground garage with Jessica following close behind. But it's not my job to tell him. I'm on vacation. She continued a little too happy. The pair continued walking towards the garage, not particularly eager to talk with each other. Both Natasha and Jessica understood each other's messages to delay the conversation for as long as possible. The two walked towards Natasha's black 2008 Aston Martin Vantage V8, customized and upgraded to be a high-performance heavy-duty car. She was reasonably sure that Naruto did something to it as well since it handles better than she expected, but she couldn't find any unusual changes or modifications. Nat got on the driver's side while tossing her gym bag to the small space behind her seat while Jessica got in on the passenger side. Natasha drove out of the garage after making sure the autolock function of the facility activated. You want to go anywhere? Natasha asked, having no real idea where they should go, but Jessica shook her head. Alright, let's just drive around. See where it leads us. She suggested. Of course, it was not a random decision on her part. It was a calculated move that would prevent Jess from bolting somewhere mid-talk. Are you serious about what you said earlier? Jessica blurted out after a few minutes of deafening silence. Which part? Natasha countered. All of it. Jessica replied. But let's start with the immortality thing first. That's true. Natasha said after releasing a sigh. I was always taught to kill my emotions. That it was just an occupational hazard since you would drown in guilt if you feel stuff. Naruto was the first person that made me feel something more. She explained. Don't get me wrong. I was never emotionally dead, but I was prepared to die without feeling any form of romantic love. The closest person I almost felt something like this for was my work partner, but nothing ever came of it since I figured out that he has a family. Well, that sucks. Jessica commented. But that still doesn't answer why. I still don't believe that it's just because you feel sorry for him. She said, changing Natasha's previous reason to the crudest way possible, which slightly irked Nat. Natasha took a few moments to think of an answer that would encapsulate at least half of the reason why she would be willing to do something as stupid as immortality. Had you ever had a single moment where you wanted it to last forever just to preserve that feeling for as long as you can? Natasha asked. Of course, Jessica answered yes to the question. She was thinking of the last Thanksgiving she had before her family died, although there was some small part of her nagging about some moments with Nat and Naruto. That's exactly what I'm trying to do. Natasha said with conviction. It may sound cliché, especially since it's coming from me, but Naruto is my forever, literally. She added. So, where am I supposed to fit in all this? Jessica asked. Wherever you want. Natasha replied plainly. With Naruto's unique condition, there is a high percentage chance that he will eventually practice polygamy. All I'm doing is dealing with it now, and at the same time making sure that it's at least someone who won't take advantage of him. She explained. He might look tough and all that, but deep inside, he's just a puppy. Are you expecting me to do the same as you? Jessica inquired, referring to Natasha's choice of immortality. No, but I got to say that I would like you to do it. I heard eternity can be pretty boring. Natasha answered half-jokingly. Nat had been driving for a while, and Jess noticed that they were on the freeway headed somewhere she was not expecting. Why are we headed to DC? Jessica asked. All this talk about the future reminded me that I need to file for 3 months of leave. Natasha said before turning back the subject. What are you going to do now? I'm not sure yet. I just need more time. Jessica confessed, causing a few moments of silence between the two. Stark Mansion, Malibu, Los Angeles. February 18, 2009, 1900 H local. The Stark family just got home a few minutes ago. Pepper had already put Morgan to bed since she had a very active day, the same as any other day with Naruto. The couple themselves were exhausted as well, especially since Tony just got back from Afghanistan and was still severely jet-lagged. That was why Tony decided to heat up some leftovers while Pepper was putting Morgan to sleep. He couldn't wait to get some sleep, but it looked like it just wasn't meant to be. Don't bother heating that up. I brought some ramen. Tony suddenly heard Naruto say from the dining room. You should probably get some sleep soon. Naruto advised. I know. Pepper already told me. Tony said, exasperated. He took a bowl and a pair of chopsticks from Naruto and sat on the chair. What are you doing here, anyway? I thought you were going back to your girlfriend. He asked before noticing Pepper walking towards them silently, trying to making sure that Naruto would not detect her. I was. But my girlfriend and our roommate had some kind of misunderstanding. So I gave them some time to work things out. Naruto explained. I could also start answering some questions you guys wanted to ask. He said before placing another bowl of ramen on the table in front of an empty seat beside Tony. Ain't that right, Peps? I thought I could get by you this time. Pepper replied with a groan before sitting in the seat beside Tony. Thanks for the food, by the way. The trio ate in silence, just enjoying the meal. When they were done, Naruto just picked up the bowls before promptly making them disappear. This didn't surprise the couple anymore due to how many times that they had already seen Naruto do it, but that just reminded Pepper of her agenda. You already know what we want to know before officially hiring you, right? Pepper asked while emphasizing the word hiring. She knew how loaded Naruto was since she was the one who handled his portfolio, and that was just the assets that she knew about. Who knows what else Naruto owns? Yup. You want to know my real background and what the hell shield is, right? Naruto asked to be sure. Pepper nodded her head while Tony was just sitting in one corner, trying to act disinterested. What do you want to know first? Let's start with what shield is and why they're so interested in Tony. Pepper replied. She saw Naruto pull out a video camera and point it at Tony, which obviously earned curious stares from the couple. What are you doing? Tony asked. Oh. This? Just trying to record your reaction. It's going to be awesome. Naruto said with a grin. This obviously caused Tony to be a little disconcerted. So, shield. A little disclaimer though, I can only tell you what I know, and I can't tell you stuff that could immediately cause you both to either be incarcerated indefinitely or terminated. He added, which further increased Tony and Pepper's anxiety, but Naruto pushed forward with the topic. The Strategic Homeland, Intervention, Enforcement, and Logistics Division, or SHIELD, is a US-based international spy agency, but you already know that. 40% of their funding comes from the US, 20% from private ventures, and the rest comes from the UN. Any questions about anything that I've said so far? Pepper shook herself no while Tony just stared straight towards Naruto. SHIELD is the derivative of the Strategic Scientific Reserve, or SSR. He continued before looking towards Tony. You know that one, right? Tony quickly ran through his memory, searching and compiling everything he had on the SSR. SSR was a top-secret advanced science division created to counter Nazi tech. Tony recited the essential details before stating the most significant and annoying fact. They were also the guys that helped the military finish Project Rebirth. Project Rebirth? Pepper interjected. It's the top-secret project that created Captain America. Tony replied with a bit more resentment coming through than he wanted. He still hadn't gotten over his jealousy that his father put more importance in a dead guy from his past than his own son. He reeled his emotions back in before adopting his easygoing persona again. Some guy must have wanted their name to spell SHIELD so bad. I feel sorry for the guy who had to come up with the name. He commented with a chuckle. Oh. You're definitely not going to like what I'm going to say next. Naruto retorted after hearing Tony's commentary. Tony's mind quickly understood what Naruto was implying, causing him to turn a shade paler and adopting a dubious expression. No. Just no. Tony said in denial. Pepper was seriously concerned with Tony's actions since she still hadn't figured out why he was acting this way. Good thing Naruto didn't make her wait long. Yup. SHIELD was co-founded by your dad, Howard Stark, and Cap's flame, Peggy Carter. Naruto blurted out, confirming Tony's suspicion, and Pepper finally understood Tony's sudden outburst. Hell, your dad provided most of the startup money that Peggy needed. He added. As for why they are so interested in you, Howard pushed forward a clause that you should not be introduced to the chaotic world that SHIELD is situated in. Peggy also mandated that SHIELD would watch over you from the shadows, to make sure you didn't suddenly die, or at least that's what my girlfriend told me. Tony and Pepper sat in silence, absorbing what Naruto told them. The whole thing was so far-fetched, but based on everything they knew, it might just be real. Tony was still reeling from the revelation when Pepper remembered something. So, the surveillance outside the house when you first moved in? Yup. SHIELD the lot of them. Naruto replied. They're still trying to watch you guys. Though I made sure they would have as hard of a time as possible. What are they going to do now? Pepper asked. Nothing. They'll continue what they're doing. Naruto answered with a shrug. I know for a fact that they're already making contingency plans if something happened to Morgan. He added while pulling out a tablet and sliding it over to Pepper. Pepper was about to take it, but Tony grabbed it first. He unlocked it and quickly scrolled through the dozens of files with different scenario labels. Alien invasion? Zombie apocalypse? What the hell? Tony exclaimed. Oh yeah. Very real. They already have an alien on ice, and I already met a zombie. Naruto replied nonchalantly. The alien he was referring to was the blue guy that Fury tried to hide off the books. He only managed to find out about it after he accidentally heard Fury ask Coulson about Project Tahiti. As for the zombie, the impure world resurrection technique technically created those. What? Pepper shouted while simultaneously standing up. Tony would have mirrored Pepper's reaction if he wasn't frozen in shock. All the surprises end here. Who the hell are you? She exclaimed. Naruto internally snickered, thoroughly enjoying the pair's reaction. It was kind of comforting that he could still surprise the couple and prank them even though he was telling them the truth. What do you want to know? Pepper pulled out her phone and opened a note file. She had been compiling questions she would ask Naruto if she ever had the chance, and now was as good a time as any. She already organized the list based on how important the question was. Who are you? We know your background story is all on paper only, and removing that, you don't exist anywhere. Pepper asked, going straight to the thing that has been bugging her the most. Unbeknownst to Tony, Pepper hired a team of private investigators to dig into Naruto's life, and all of them agreed on two things. Naruto was not a regular guy, and all his papers are fake. Tony just hung back, letting Pepper run the show. He recognized that she would be able to ask more pertinent questions. Well, the question should be what rather than who, but I guess I'll answer either way. Naruto mused before taking a deep breath. My name is Naruto Uzumaki, a former shinobi of the Hidden Leaf Village. My girlfriend has had the best description that I've ever heard. He started before pausing for dramatic effect. She called me an immortal dimension-hopping god. Pepper sat frozen in shock, not expecting such a far-fetched answer. Tony, on the other hand, decided to go the other direction and release a full-bellied laugh. That's it for this reading. Hit like and subscribe for a free ticket pass going to the different worlds of anime fanfictions. Looking forward to having you on board again.